interested parties in for a reaction. Shachindra Nath of Religare joins in to talk about what he's made of the note out so far. Shachindra, afternoon, your preliminary thoughts on what the RBI has released just a few moments back? Mr. Nath, good afternoon. Is my voice reaching you?
Now it is. Sorry, I missed your question for the first time. Can you repeat?
Just asking you for your early thoughts on the note that's been released.
Well, it's an 80-page note, so I have to go through it. But my first reaction is that it looks like that it's a very forward-looking step, which this discussion paper says, because many things about which industry have a lot of apprehension have been opened up. So industrial sector, which has an NBFC, they can be allowed. So this is a very path-breaking step and would change the banking industry in a very, very different manner. And I think so it would open up. This country needs huge amount of capital, and capital need to go to infrastructure. So it can open up a very, very the landscape of the banking can change if this would finally come true.
Lata? Yeah, Mr. Nath, the RBI specifically says that groups with experience in finance could be considered as potential candidates for banking licenses, and they have put up suggestions of some strict safeguards. For instance, ring fencing the financial entity so that it doesn't do any intra-group lending at all, as well making suggestions that the board should be mandated to have a majority of independent directors, and the chairman should be a part-time chairman. So very clearly the board cannot be dominated by the industrial group, even if it is owned and majority held by a certain industrial house. It also says that if it notices any laxity in this, the Reserve Bank should have the right to supersede that board. Would you say that in spite of these kinds of rules, groups like yours would be interested?
See, Religare or not Religare, I think so the RBI approach towards granting new licenses is very, very appropriate. We have seen globally what has happened in credit crisis, where most of the firms which are largely controlled by independent board directors, still most of them have gone into crisis mode. So I think so what RBI is proposing, that the providence of capital and the governance of the business need to be segregated. And I think this is a very, very right approach, because ultimately banks can create systematic risk to the whole financial system. So from that perspective, I think so this is the best way to approach it. If you have as a group as a capital, please provide the capital, but don't control that capital for your own benefit. So I think it's a good step, and in any way, if you look at Religare, we are largely we are governed by that model itself, wherein the promoter family is not in day-to-day operation of the business for almost from its inception. So yes, we don't find any difficulty with this approach at all.
Okay, well, this is a question obviously needless to ask, but you would be very keenly watching to put in your license application.
We have to study this whole discussion paper in detail, and as we have said, that if it makes economic sense for all our stakeholders, we would be interested, but we have to study it in detail.
All right, Mr. Shachindra Nath.
Anything that seems, Shachindra, just one more question on whether anything in this discussion paper at this point seems onerous to you, either in terms of capital requirements that have been set out, or as Lata was mentioning, the promoter shareholding norms, anything that looks like a trip up?
No, not really. I have done a very, very quick look at it, but not really. I would have expected and welcomed an even higher capital requirement for banking, given its importance of this kind of systematic risk it can create for the whole system. I think so only entities which are very sufficiently well capitalized should be allowed to get into this kind of a business. So I would have even welcomed even a higher capital base, but it looks okay to me.
I think one of the suggestions also is, Shachindra, that the conversion of NBFCs into banks will require withdrawal from many segments of business not permitted to banks. Is that okay for you as an NBFC to sort of pull out from a couple of verticals where the RBI may not be keen or comfortable that a bank be exposed to?
So we have to yet to study it in detail whether within a group, whether you can have NBFCs and banks both. But our view is that the banking business has to be standalone and independent of all other businesses within the group. To our view, banks, or all you see which we call exotic banking globally, banks should be traditionally a pure commercial bank and would be towards risk management and towards lending. And from that perspective, we don't see that there is an overlap, and those two businesses can coexist. But I have not yet to study how RBI approaches this.
Okay, thanks Shachindra. Ashwin, you want to comment on that? Do you think it's possible there can be a Reliance Capital NBFC and also an ADAG bank?
Well,